Silence is not an option. 1-888-69-BUBBA. This is the Bubba the Love Sponge Show.
Go to my website, btls.com. Sign up for Bubba's Bikes for Badges this coming Saturday at my racetrack, Bubba Raceway Park, to help the fallen FHP officer, Chelsea Richard. If you don't want to register beforehand, then just simply come to Bubba Raceway Park by 9:30 this coming Saturday. All proceeds go to her 4-year-old boy. Again, Bubba Raceway Park, Saturday, 9:30. $25 a person, but you get a $14 ticket to get into the races that night. Dirt late models, Saturday night, Bubba Raceway Park. Let me get into. Let me take Brooke first. Brooke, I see what your comments are, and you think that. Well, I'll let you go ahead and say it, and then I'm going to ask a favor of you. Okay, Brooke?
Okay.
All right. So go ahead, Brooke. What were you going to tell me? This is Brooke out of South Carolina, by the way. Go ahead.
I just think that you guys are making fun at the expense of Kevin Ward. He just passed away last night.
First of all, hold on. We're not making fun of anybody. Okay, we're not making fun of anybody. Never would I make fun of an on-track incident or a death ever. What we're doing is taking a common sense approach and our particular opinion is the guy had no business, going out onto the race surface. I'm going to spend about the next 45 or 50 minutes giving you my monologue on this. And so if you could just do me a favor, Brooke, okay? I didn't mean to cut you off.
You're fine.
But could I take your phone number? Okay.
I would like nudes.
I don't want any nudes. And could you
do not give this man your phone number
or
penis pics?
I'll tell you.
Just want you to know, Bubba, my husband's listening too.
All right. So listen to me, Brooke. I would like for you and your husband to listen to me, okay?
We do every morning.
For the next 45 minutes, after you hear maybe some data that you're not familiar with, and you've only watched this from a woman, I'm assuming a 20-some-year-old woman. How old are you, Brooke?
I'm 31.
From a 34-year-old woman that's never been
31.
From a 31-year-old woman that's never been probably to a dirt track.
I actually have been to a dirt track.
That has never driven a sprint car.
No, I haven't.
And was not there this past Saturday night.
No, I was not.
So if you could please listen to me. Now, if you feel the same way thereafter, I'll take that. That's your opinion, okay? But I'd like for you and your lovely husband to listen to me for the next, 30, it could be 20 minutes, it could be 40. And then we call you back or you call us back and let me know if you think we're still being dicks.
I don't think you're being dicks. I just think you need to ease up on the Frogger.
Well, listen, I'm not the one that came up with he's playing Frogger with sprint cars. I don't think that's funny. 25 came up with it, okay? I don't think that I don't think you got stop, guys.
Well, I wasn't saying it really as a joke, but if you look at the video, that's what it looks like he's doing. He gets out of his car.
And for the guy's family.
Plus he's playing it very badly. He only dodged one car.
So anyway, listen, Brooke, I'm going to give my monologue, give you some insight that you might not be familiar with. And then I'd like for you to call back, or we call you back, whatever you feel comfortable with, and you let me know what you think, Bob, okay?
All right, that's great. Thanks. I'm so glad to talk to you, Bubba.
Thank you, Brooke. I'll put you on hold so the Pantera gets your number. I'm going to open this particular segment up. I think that we have probably a ton of people listening right now. Probably new people. Probably the media. Welcome. I'm going to open up this is the national story that seems to be circulating, and I'm going to dissect it piece by piece, and then give you a list of bullet points that I'd like for you to consider with regards to this very tragic accident that happened in upstate New York Saturday night. The Kevin Ward gentleman, Jr., the 20-year-old 360 sprint car driver, was pronounced dead about 11:20 Eastern time Saturday night. Our hearts go out to the family. I probably am not taking as much of a fake, oh my God, type approach as some of the other fake media is, and some of the people that are probably more corporately tied to not being able to be truly unfiltered. I probably won't be able to be as unfiltered as I'd like to be, but I'll do my best in giving you my insight. I would consider myself an absolute expert at this particular tragic accident. And the reason why is because, one, I am familiar with Tony. Two, I've driven these particular cars in question for well over 10 years. Three, my son currently drives these cars. And then with help from Robbie Smith and Wesley and those guys, I work on these cars and maintain these cars as well. And 4, and which I think is probably next to 2 being I've driven these cars for 10 years, 4 I think being the next most important vetting as to why I would be an expert is that I currently own a dirt track much like the dirt track in northern New York that this tragic happened. And so I've seen and see Saturday night dirt track racers that are pissed off and have been part of a wreck that they felt somebody else caused, or the surface or the lighting or the type of car. I know it all, and I'm going to give you my opinion. Now, after I give you my opinion, I'd like for you to call and participate, much like Brooke did and will thereafter. 1-888-69-BUBBA. The media is reporting this way wrong. The media is reporting this as if it was on the side of a highway on a car that can be easily stopped with lighting, with a car that might have headlights, if you will. So they're not even, first and foremost, you have to take in consideration the particular race car that we're talking about that was involved, that both gentlemen were driving. Tony Stewart and this Kevin Ward Jr. were both driving a 360 cubic inch fuel injected 1,250 to 1,400 pound sprint car, winged sprint car. Those in themselves don't have any clutches. They're either in gear or out of gear. If you are to stop them while they're still running, if you hit the brakes while they're running and you don't pop it out of gear, the engine will completely bog down and die. If you are to stop them and leave the engine running, then you have to bump it out of gear, which in itself is kind of cumbersome. They have about between 12 and 15 inches of stagger. And what's that mean? Imagine, so I'm kind of just trying to lay the predicate as to the vehicle first that we're talking about.
Yeah.
They have these particular cars that Tony was driving and Kevin Ward Jr., God bless him, was driving as well. 360 wing sprint cars have about anywhere between 10 and 15 inches of stagger. Now, what that means is that the right rear is probably somewhere around 105 inches, and the left rear is somewhere between 90 and 92 inches, making for this car naturally wanting to spin out while going slow under idle and under caution conditions. Now, the estimated speed, as I've driven these things while you're idling around, is about between 35 and 45 miles an hour. And I will tell you that these particular cars, these 360 Sprints, are virtually impossible to navigate when they're not up to speed. They just run like a tub of crap because these front wheels, you're more guiding this car than you are steering this car. Now, what you also need to know before I get into all this is that while you're in a sprint car that has 15 inches of stagger, that naturally wants to go to the left at all times, you're constantly, while idling and going slow, keeping pressure, if you will, right-handed pressure, because the car naturally wants to spin out left. The reason why they have 10 to 15 inches of stagger is because when they're going 115 miles an hour into the corners with this 25 cubic feet wing on top, it naturally wants to suck into the corner and turn left, causing them to be able to, not have to lift the throttle or just drag the brake to get into the corners. That's what makes this sport so exciting to watch, is that most of the time they barely have to crack the throttle under wet track conditions. So this thing is almost virtually, and I wouldn't say impossible, but it's a handful to drive while you're idling. Now, in saying that, I must say one more thing, that if you're driving a sprint car under yellow conditions that are going 35 to 40 miles per hour, as this was, and you are to make a drastic move any way or the other, imagine if you're coming up on something and you're going to try to avoid that, you have to hit the gas and get the ass end loose to be able to dart any which way.
It's like a jet ski. If you're not going, you're not steering.
Thank you. It very much equates to a jet ski. Imagine if you're on a jet ski and you're going to hit something, the rookie mistake is people let off the gas and start steering. Yeah. Well, there's no propulsion at that point, and you go straight.
Yep.
This particular instance, this isn't Bubba, who's Tony's friend, who's trying to make excuses for the guy, some technical type sprint car, how sprint car drive excuses. I can call Greg Leonard. I can call Kenny Adams. I can call Gene Lasker. I can call Robbie Smith. I can call Sport Allen. I can talk to any human being that's been in a sprint car that will tell you virtually word for word what I'm saying to you right now. This isn't fancy technical peel this onion back and try to find some type of excuse talk. These are real facts about these particular cars. If you're driving these cars under a caution type situation, the only way you can virtually steer these things quickly, real quickly, is to gas them up, to try to get the ass in around so that you can make a drastic move, especially to the left. And that's what we have here. So that in itself is a car that has no clutch. It can't stop. And the other mitigating situation that I'd like you to consider is you can't see very well, especially to your right. You have a car that has a wing that is dropped down more on the right-hand side, that has 25 cubic feet of sheet metal, this arrow wing, so to speak, that keeps the car sucked down in the middles. So you got a car that has no clutch, that can't stop, that has limited visibility with 15 inches of stagger, that when you are under slow type situations, you have to virtually drive with the throttle if you were to try to get out of the way. And that in itself is what exactly happened. So I set it all up with that. So, Manson, because I don't think, Manson, anybody in the national media has started with the car itself. They've all just said, Tony Stewart hit a fellow driver who was on the track. The kid's dead. Tony's in trouble. Nobody has peeled this onion back and started with the exact type of car they're driving and the characteristics of that car.
They don't know a sprint car, from a late model, from anything.
They think that a sprint car can be easily stopped, doesn't have 15 inches of stagger, and do not know how many idiosyncrasies and how much of a handful these particular cars are. To know how this car drives and to know the ins and outs and the inner workings of this particular vehicle is literally half of this entire scenario. Being in a sprint car and not having the ability to clutch your car and stop, and the only way, everybody's getting so hung up that they hear Tony hit the gas. I'm going to be honest with you. Tony has to hit the gas. If Tony has any way, Tony hit the gas and the right rear hit the kid. If Tony hadn't hit the gas, he probably would have ran clean over the kid. So hitting the gas, all these dumbass hillbillies and the national media, Manson, they think that hitting the gas, and on my Twitter, I saw people saying, oh, Tony goosed it. He smashed the gas and he goosed it to scare the kid and to throw mud on him. Well, first of all, you can only throw mud on somebody that's behind you. Secondly, the kid was in front of him. And thirdly, if there was any chance to get out of that kid's way, to get this particular sprint car not in direct line with this kid who is now at your right front tire trying to reach into your cockpit, would be to, as you guys would say, goose it, to try to free the car up so that it would dart drastically left. Now, I've not heard, and tell me if you guys have, if you've watched this, I've not heard one national media story start with the description of what particular race vehicle these guys were driving, because this particular race vehicle is one of the most oddest, ill-handling race vehicles of any vehicle there is under slow conditions. And I think that is something that really needs to be considered. Here is the national story. I'll start peeling the inaccuracies back from this.
On the 14th lap of the Super Sprint race, Kevin Ward Jr.'s number 13 car was on the outside portion of the track when Tony Stewart in the number 14 car squeezed Ward into the wall.
Not true. First of all, if you watch it, Tony has the inside position coming off of 4. By the time they hit the flag stand, Tony's about a quarter car ahead of him. As they enter into the corner, Tony takes the low to middle line. He's dealing with a lap car that's low. He squeezes between the lap car. The Kevin Ward puts it on the high side. Now, as if you're a race car driver and you know anything about getting a slide job put on, the inside car has position. If that inside car is now sliding up the track and you're the outside car, you do one of two things. You don't lift and get spun out like Kevin Ward did, or you lift and try to do a crossover move on the guy. But if you don't lift and you end up, taking a right rear slider, that's on you. So the wreck in itself cannot be blamed on Tony. At best, it's considered a racing deal. Would you guys not agree?
Yeah.
At best, it's a racing deal, and it would be more likely Kevin's fault than Tony's.
Well, do you think it's a big deal that Tony Stewart is racing at these sprint car tracks?
Yeah, I think it's a big deal.
I mean,
a lot of people are going to say, listen,
a
lot of people are going to say he shouldn't continue racing with these stupid ass hillbillies that would love to get in some type of deal.
They're trying to make a name for themselves.
I agree with you, but that's what differentiates Tony
from other
races. This is what he loves to do. He would rather do this than NASCAR.
The 20-year-old spun out and blew a tire. Ward then got out of the car.
By the way, I got a ton of great people that want to talk about this. I will get to all of you. I just got a lot to talk about.
And began walking along the track, gesturing as Stewart's car neared.
Now, the problem you have here is you are instructed by the safety personnel and the race director and the track owner and what have you, that if you get into a situation and your car's not, at risk of blowing up or leaking oil, stay in your car until emergency personnel, track personnel get there to either load you up in their truck and take you safely off the race surface, or stay by your car. But you are to not, as 25 would say, play Frogger. You are to not play Frogger.
That phrase on me now.
You are to not play Frogger. And when you do play Frogger, stuff like this happens. Now, you are wearing a black race suit with a black helmet on a dimly lit, not professionally lit mom and pop half-mile racetrack in upstate New York. The first car, the 45 car, by the way, if you look at Tony's 14 car, he's directly behind the 45 car for the most part. It's not like, and you guys agree with me or not, it's not like Tony is on the top side of the groove, 3 car lengths higher than 45. He's in general close proximity to the 45, is he not?
Yeah.
So it's not like he's out of the groove. The 45 comes around and damn near misses the kid. The reason why is the kid now, the Kevin Ward Jr., is trying to find the 14. And these cars are running 35 to 40 miles an hour. The reason why the 45 didn't hit him is because the Kevin Ward kid didn't reach into that particular cockpit trying to grab a hold of the 45 driver, but got close enough as he's gauging up the 14 that the 45 had to quickly swerve to the left.
And plus, if you're Stewart behind 45, I'm sure you've all been in traffic when
You can't see nothing.
Somebody's turning left in front of the car in front of you, and then that car dodges at the last second, and all of a sudden there's a car right in front of you.
Right.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened here.
And so, now let me also tell you that when you're driving a sprint car with a Hans device on, you have very limited visibility to the right, and you're literally tailing the guy, the 45 guy. You can't really see what he's dodging. All of a sudden, blam, here's the Kevin Ward kid. Tony had, as you guys would say, have to goose it. If Tony was to be able to, if there was any chance to avoid this Kevin Ward guy, Tony had to gas it up to try to get the car loose, to try to drastically to get it to turn left. See, that's the problem. Manson, everybody in the media thinks that gassing it up meant that Tony was trying to accelerate on the kid.
No, he deliberately hit him, Bubba.
They don't realize, and that's why there's
no story in the other, Bubba.
Right. And so that's why there's not going to be any criminal charges. You don't think that these prosecutors in New York would love to throw the book at Tony Stewart? You don't think that they would love to?
Make a name for themselves?
They would love to. But they know racing. They've probably talked to probably the track owner, probably to the 45 kid, and realize, and listen, I'm probably one of the very own places in the media that's not taking the most sympathetic stance as others are with this particular Ward guy. This guy reached inside Tony's compartment, Tony gassing it up is not an admission of trying to hit him. It's an admission of trying to get out of the way if you knew how these cars handled. And I'm just disturbed. But again, the prosecuting attorney and the state attorney and local authorities, they know what I know, and they know what the media, I quite frankly, doesn't have the balls to report. Because, Manson, there is no story that sprint cars have 15 inches of stagger, and in order to get them to dart left, much like a jet ski, you have to gas it up. That totally vindicates Tony, and I don't know how much of a big sensationalized story that is.
You lost me at 15 inches of stagger.
The story is not. The story is does have
even to testify. Well,
this story doesn't have any legs. If they reported the kid kind of determined his own fate. This story doesn't have any legs.
Yeah,
but it's the truth.
They're reporting that he was walking out. He was clearly not walking. He was cutting a promo on Tony Stewart.
Medics arrived within seconds. Ward, who had been racing sprint cars since 2010, was pronounced dead an hour later. Ontario County Sheriff Philip C. Pavero is overseeing the investigation.
I got a lot of things to talk about, phone calls as well. Stand by.
There is no evidence in hand or no facts that would support a criminal charge or support criminal intent.
And the reason why they say that, now I don't know why this national media guy has to put a but in there. Well, because you know why he's got to put a but in there? Because it keeps this story going.
Yep.
This is really not a story if it's told correctly. This is not a story. It doesn't take the tragic events away. It doesn't take the fact that Tony, I'm sure Tony Stewart, who if you know the Tony Stewart that I know, the one that builds playgrounds for kids, the one that's donated millions and millions of dollars to handicapped children in the Richard Petty Victory Junction facility via his foundation, the Tony Stewart that has spent over $1 million for animals and bought bulletproof jackets for police dogs. If you knew that Tony Stewart, you would know that Tony Stewart isn't going to try to kill anybody, and especially on the track. Yes, his temper is much like a lot of other people's short-fused temper on the track, but he's not going to try to kill anybody.
He's not a murderer.
No.
The incident has raised questions about whether Stewart's actions were deliberate.
They were. Let me just say something now. And that you guys, I don't know if you're going to be able to digest this or not, but Tony Stewart, his actions were deliberate. One, he was racing the kid hard, and the kid wouldn't lift. Tony's not going to lift. That caused an accident. That was not Tony's fault. But that's deliberate. Secondly, Tony deliberately did hit the gas. But what you are failing to realize is that by hitting the gas, it's not in the way that you think. Because you think that a car, when you hit the gas, then you're trying to accelerate and hit something that may be a personal target of yours in front of you. What you're failing to realize is the dynamics of a sprint car, that if you don't hit the gas and try to get the car a little bit sideways, it's not going to dart left. In fact, it'll do the opposite. And so he deliberately did hit the gas. All you uneducated rubes out there that have never been to a sprint car race, that don't own a dirt track, that have never driven a sprint car, think that by him deliberately hitting the gas, that's an admission that he was gunning and goosing his car, so to speak, to mow this kid down. I don't think you're going to hear that particular testimony or monologue from anybody.
Has had physical.
And if Tony hadn't deliberately hit that gas, instead of Tony's right rear, which tragically enough is killed the guy, he would have ran over him dead straight on, and that certainly would have killed him.
Altercations with drivers in the past, and his former sponsor, Home Depot, criticized him for his anger issues. 2 years ago, Stewart was angry.
So now we're going to get into all this.
Man, they're really burying him.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. At most, Tony Stewart, he had 2 seconds to respond to whatever.
If.
It was just like, bam, this guy's on me.
This guy's on me. What do I do? I'm going to gas it up to try to get my car to dart left. The kid is now at my right front, and he's reaching in on my cockpit. If they find any additional video, you will find that the kid just wasn't Let me tell you what the kid wasn't doing. He just wasn't standing there minding his own business, waiting for the cars to dart by for him to flip Tony two double tall mans. He was not just standing there a couple feet off the race line with his helmet off so that he could chuck his helmet at Tony's car. That's not what he was doing. What he was doing, and what the sheriff officials and prosecuting, possibly persons that could be prosecuting these things, know that this particular video does not show, but hopefully others will show, and other eyewitnesses have testified to, is the kid was going in and out, gauging, if you will, gauging up. Manson, much like how you gauge up how to jump in when you're jumping rope, like double dutching.
Yeah.
You know how you're gauging the rope up? The guy was gauging. You can see his body language by attempting to just try to time it so that he comes in after the 45 car and jumps in or grabs in on Tony's cockpit. That's what you don't know, is that he just wasn't sitting there patiently, zippity-doo-dah, zippity-dee, waiting for the 14 to come around so that he could throw a dirt clod at the guy or he could throw his helmet. He was gauging, double dutching, if you will, so that he could dart into Tony's path, hopefully the cockpit, and light Tony up. Now, that in itself, if you know anything about sprint cars, you got the headers right there by the cockpit. You got a very, Manson, you've got in and out of a sprint car. You got a very small window to even think about
you
that.
You can't see.
And you got the right rear with no fender, an open-wheeled 108-inch right rear that's just eating dirt, that's going to possibly eat your body if you illy time it. And that's what happened. That's why this story doesn't have legs. You people in the national media are trying to make this story have legs at the expense of a person that means a lot to me, that quite frankly didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything wrong at all. Nobody's going to report that. Yes, I do have some sympathy for the family. I wouldn't want anybody to lose their son in any capacity with any sporting event. But when your son did what your son did, I'm not taking quite as soft of an approach as the rest of the worldwide media is.
I mean, again, it's Tony Stewart, and he's a three-time NASCAR champion, right? You would think that other race car drivers would like and respect him. I mean, even if he did spin you out on the track, you know, again, it's a racing deal. So,
but this kid, in my
opinion, want to get out and try to climb into his car and fight him?
I have no idea. Maybe so that you could be.
He knows the dangers of being out on the track. You know, you shouldn't get out of the car. I mean,
had this kid pulled this off, he would have made a name for himself.
Yeah,
Seriously,
it's
I'm the guy that got spun out by Tony Stewart, and I'm the guy that reached in there and whipped Tony Stewart's ass.
Right.
That's got some chest pounding rights in the local circles of dirt tracking. Todd, you're on the air. Hello.
Hey, Bubba, how's it going?
Good, sir.
I raced